My absolute pleasure. Delighted to welcome our next speaker, Didi Okoh. First met Didi back in 2022, all those years ago, Didi. We were in London. We met in a reception area of a modelling agency or something ridiculous that I was asked as a favour. I was asked as a favour, so would you mind just representing the fellas and go along? I said, yeah, if you want. And there was Didi in the reception, and I could tell because she had her legs out, I had my legs out, and we could tell that we were united by lymphedema. And we got chatting. Such a positive attitude, such a friendly, warm, lovely lady, and I've been very fortunate to work with Didi on a number of projects since, and here she is today. Didi's here to tell us her story, her inspirational story. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Didi Okoh.
Hi guys, I promise this is just water. It's really great to see so many people here today and so many people with lymphedema or supporting the cause and just joining together on a lovely day of golf, which I wish I took part in, but I have no coordination skills, so I would have honestly held you guys back at least a couple of hours. But yeah, today's just going to be a little bit about my journey with lymphedema and kind of what steps I took in order to even get to where I am today talking to you guys. So what's really interesting is over the last few months, I've had quite a lot of people. I have a lot of like appointments with psychologists and things like that for athletics, for sport, because your mental side's very important. And my psychologist for British athletics asked me, what is one word you would think that people use to describe yourself? And I had to have a little think, and I realized actually a lot of the time people call me resilient. I'm a very resilient person, and resilience obviously is that drive to achieve something no matter what obstacles you may come forth with. And in order to really understand why people call me resilient, we have to really look back maybe 14 years ago, where I was a mere 8 years old. And I was always quite an active person. I did ballet, tap dance, you name it. I did every form of dancing. I loved running around. I walked before I crawled. But when I was actually 8 years old, I tried to do a cross country race and I thought I would win it. I'm very competitive. I just assumed that I would win this race because I'm so active. And actually, I didn't win. I came seventh. I didn't even get on the team for cross country, which if you're looking at me now, you're like, Didi, you're literally on the top stage. Why didn't you make this team? But rather than backing down and being like, oh, maybe athletics isn't for me, I actually went up to my mum on that same afternoon and went, I'm going to train for the next year and make sure that I make that team. And that is all I've ever done since. And from that moment on, I just knew that I would be driving to perfection, driving to my end goals, and making sure I achieve exactly what I want to achieve. So this kind of resilient mentality continued on right through primary school, all the way until I was 11, 12 years old. And I was competing at a national level in athletics, competing in 800 meters, high jump. It was one of those situations where if you'd given me another year, I would have been on that international level because of how well I was performing. So this was something that I dedicated a lot of time towards. Academics is really important, but to me, I love having that balance and I love striving towards something else that isn't just determined on your pure academic grades. And I hit about 12 years old and I was at a gifted and talented athletics competition. And this girl comes up to me on my team and she goes, Didi, have you ever noticed that one of your thighs is bigger than the other? And everyone just burst out laughing at me. And I just looked down and I went, oh, that's kind of funny, isn't it? Got one thigh that's bigger than the other, okay. We all had a bit of a joke about it, a bit of a laugh. And then I went back home and told my parents and I was like, isn't that so funny? And they looked at me with horror. They were like, what? What do you mean? And then it was from that point on they realized actually there is probably something quite wrong with my leg that I didn't realize at the time. And initially, we actually thought there was a muscular deformity within the leg because I'm very active and very sporty. I'm left-handed, I'm left-dominated, and it's all in my left leg. So we actually thought there was a problem with the other leg. So what we decided to do was, I don't know if anyone in this room can do a single leg squat. I can't now, but at the time I could, right? So I was doing double single leg squats on my right leg and then half the amount of squats on my left. So we were very much like creating even more of an imbalance that we didn't realize at the time. But then a year later, fast forward to 13 years old, I did a cross-country race and a netball tournament on the same day, and then woke up the next morning feverish. My temperature's at about 38 to 40 degrees. I've got red dots all over my leg. My leg is swollen even further than we ever thought it could. And my parents thought, oh, okay, she's pulled a muscle. It's obviously a cellulitis infection, but let's just assume she's pulled a muscle. So they take me to the doctors where we go from consultant to consultant. One in particular told my 6 foot self, yes, I've been 6 foot since I was about 12 years old. They told me to take Calpol and the swelling would go down. 6 foot, 13-year-old taking Calpol is probably not the treatment going forward. So we decided to try and get myself referred, got myself referred to Great Ormond Street Hospital. And obviously this is all at the age of 13. So that's that very initial teenager stage. So going through that as someone who is striving to be an elite athlete, it was very daunting because I was kept a lot in the dark about what was actually going on. And I didn't realize just how much of an impact that this condition would have on me. I genuinely thought this was something that was going to go away. I thought, it's just an injury, I'll be fine. But then it was actually going to Great Ormond Street and going under all these different procedures and tests and regulations that made me realize this is actually something more serious. But the problem is they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's wrong with me. And again, it just kind of highlights that lack of awareness around lymphedema and the treatments and how it was maybe 10, 15 years ago, 10, 15 odd years ago. But yeah, it took a further 3 years to actually get my diagnosis. It only took when I got to St. George's and was under Professor Mortimer and Professor Gordon herself, that they actually diagnosed me with lymphedema. But during those 3 years, was probably the most important years of development and the most important years of my life in terms of setting up goals in order to achieve them. And within those 3 years, I had 3 cellulitis infections in 1 year. But obviously I didn't know what was wrong. So I kept going to the hospital, kept getting treatment for the cellulitis. My leg was getting very starkingly worse and worse and worse. It went from being just in my left thigh to going all the way down into my toes, the whole leg. It started ballooning. I couldn't put shoes on anymore. The actual cellulitis itself, I could feel an impact each time. I struggled to walk afterwards. Running, I went from being able to run on a national scale 800 meters to not being able to cross the finish line in a 200-meter race. And it just really highlights just how much of an impact lymphedema can have on the person. Someone as myself, who was as fit and active as I was, ultimately went down this tunnel where I was so slowly spiraling in this kind of pool of I just wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I just wasn't winning. I wasn't winning my medals. I wasn't achieving goals. I wasn't getting PBs, personal bests. And I just felt like my purpose of myself actually kind of deteriorated over time. So when I finally hit 16 and I actually got that full diagnosis of primary lymphedema, I wish I could say I felt relief, but I didn't. And I think as a patient, I guess it's always quite hard knowing that actually you didn't feel that relief. You didn't feel like, oh, okay, everything's better now. Now I know that what I can do going forward, because I didn't know what to do going forward. I just got told, wear compression, try and take antibiotics, and you'll start to hopefully get a bit better. But my sense of self-worth completely destroyed. It was completely destroyed. I stopped going out as much. I kind of came into this reclusive shell of a person that wasn't really me. And it was really heartbreaking for my family to see, my friends to see, but ultimately it was really heartbreaking for myself to see that this one event, this athletics journey that I was on, and I promised myself I will make the Olympics, I will win that gold medal, and I'll do exactly what I wanted to do. Everything just kept tumbling down around me, and I just felt like that journey is not it for me anymore. Why would I do that when I've got lymphedema, right? Like I can't overcome these barriers. And that self of resilience, that sense of resilience just kind of faded away over time. I just started to not believe in myself anymore. And it led to a lot of other things. And it's really heartbreaking thinking about it now, because it's a lot of things that I think as a child you don't want to go through. But unfortunately, it's what lymphedema presented itself to me. I started not eating because I thought with lymphedema, I was trying to do research and I thought you had to lose weight in order to not have as bad lymphedema. So I stopped eating at all and lost about 10 kg. I started covering up my leg because I was like, everyone keeps staring at me. I had people recording me. I had people when me and my mum, we were going to a hospital appointment and we're on the tube, and this guy comes and taps me on the shoulder and he's like, "What's that you got on your leg? What is that? Like, I don't know what's on your leg." My mum had to shoo him away. She was like, this is a child. Why are you coming up to this child and invading her privacy? And just let her be. And it felt like, it just felt like I wasn't myself anymore. But one day, and particularly when I was looking at university options, because for me, I kind of saw university as that fresh start, that ability for me to kind of reinvent myself as a person. And I kind of thought, and I sat there, and I was like, Didi, why are you letting this just dictate your life? You're not you're not yourself anymore. I don't recognize who you are. Even if you don't want to do athletics anymore, shouldn't you at least have some sort of aim and goal to strive towards? Because looking at universities, I didn't feel anything. I didn't want to go to university. I felt that academics, everything had just gone into the bin, basically. So when I came to this realization that actually I wasn't living for myself anymore, I was living for the lives of strangers and people around me that had the audacity to be asking me questions as a child that I didn't want to answer at the time because I didn't understand myself. I then realized that actually I can take control of this situation a lot better than I thought. I can go out and wear whatever I want to wear. If people come up and ask me questions, depending on what mood I'm in, I'll either say, "Could you please leave me alone today?" Or I'll be happy to explain it because I'm ultimately a very positive person and it's not something that I wanted lymphedema to take away from me. And so going to university was a lifeline, and that's like the light at the end of the tunnel for me, in the sense that I was allowed to kind of have that fresh start and reinvent myself with this condition, and now to have a better perspective of living with lymphedema. So going to university, I initially did not do this the right way. I decided not to wear my compression garment, which was not great for the first like maybe 6 months, 7 months, because I thought, oh, I'm really confident with how I am now, so I don't really mind if I have lymphedema. But obviously that's not the right approach, and I very quickly realized that when my leg got a bit worse. Um, and then I realized, why is it that I can't see younger people with lymphedema? Why is there no one there that I can see and reach out to? And so I realized that actually, why am I being selfish about this? This is not about me at all. This is about a community of people that really need this help and deserve to have someone there to lean on. And so I thought, why not start advocating for awareness of lymphedema? Why not start talking to people about it or posting? And hopefully someone out there will have it too and feel reassured that everything will be okay. And that even someone like myself, with the journey I had, will be able to persevere. And so I started posting on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram. I'm not actually very good with technology, so I had to really learn. But yeah, no, so I did a lot of like posting and things like that. And actually, I had a really large positive response. A lot of people reached out and said, I didn't realize that other people around me had this condition. I felt so alone. And now there's like almost this community of people. We have group chats, we have all sorts of different ways to talk to people with lymphedema now. And I'm just really grateful for the community that's been built up around this condition, and also the fact that because of this phrase resilience and because this mentality of keep pushing on no matter what the results or no matter what barriers you're having to overcome, I felt that it allowed me that extra push to kind of drive for what I wanted. And that's why after doing all this advocating and spreading awareness, I thought, why not go back to sport, even if it's just to enjoy it, because I also don't think I had a very healthy relationship with sport at the time. I thought, even if I just enjoy the sport that I'm doing, isn't that enough? And so I thought, right, back to athletics. Why not? Let's not try another sport. Hockey, who? No, not me. So I started back up with the athletics, and I met this para athlete, and she took one look at me and went, Didi, like, why are you not a para athlete? And I looked at her and laughed because I had been telling myself this whole time, you have to just get on with this. You're a trooper. You're going to compete with everybody else. But what I hadn't taken a moment to just step back and realize, actually, this condition is this condition is a form of a disability. It can impair you from doing things, and it has prevented me from doing the sport that I wanted to do in the way that I wanted to do it in. And so I actually found another avenue and another way to do my sport that I loved, and that was through para athletics. And throughout this time, I was also engaging in modelling campaigns. I did over there, that's the Jobst unsynchronized campaign that we did. Unsynchronized because we did swimming and we were meant to be synchronized swimmers, but we weren't. There was nothing synchronized about us. We were very, very unbalanced. I felt like I was drowning at some points. But yeah, all these different things that I was doing kind of allowed me to push through with the athletics because I felt more confident in myself. And I felt like, you know what, Didi, you're putting yourself so on display right now. Like, why not just go a step further and try and push with the athletics? And so I did a year of athletics as a para athlete and then realized that actually the times that I'd run, and I'd only done 100 meters a couple of times in the year, I realized it put me third in the world as a para athlete. And I remember I sat down with my mom and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I just, rocked up to a training session for 100 meters and then go to the Paralympic Games and try and like win a medal? And that is exactly what I did. I didn't have an athletics coach at the time. I picked up athletics by myself. I spent the whole of 2024 learning how to sprint because I hadn't learned how to sprint before. I was always a long distance runner. So kind of, especially with lymphedema, the form of adapting you have to do with training and ensuring that you're able to keep up with everybody in terms of the volume of work you're doing, but also knowing that there is a line that has to be drawn and being okay with that and comfortable with that. Because as I said, I'm very competitive and that applies in training. Like if I think I can do that fifth rep, I'm going to go and try and do it, but it's going to be at a consequence of my own health. So I thought that training to be a para athlete, training to be a sprinter, and training to be selected for the Paralympic Games within 10 months was going to be a walk in the park. I thought, you know what, Didi, I'm just going to get up there and run and it's all going to be fine. Well, as we know, that was not the case because there's always a barrier in the way that you have to try and overcome. So lymphedema is not very well known. And we know this, we all have seen this, whether it's through diagnosis, whether it's through treatment, whether it's through doctors, GPs. But another way it's not been known and reflected and seen through is athletics and through sport. There is not, as far as I'm aware, another para athlete physically competing at an elite level in sport. And so when I was trying to go through what we call a classification system, which is where they put para athletes in categories based on their impairment, they didn't know what to do with me. They looked at me and went, oh no, I don't know what to do with this. Like, why are you coming up to me and asking me to be an athlete? Please don't give me the trouble. So they were trying their hardest all year to kind of make me not actually do athletics. And I actually had to take a 6-week break in the Paralympic year because it was a very overwhelming situation and they nearly prevented me from actually being selected for the games. So I had to provide a lot of evidence, as Professor Gordon will attest to. We had to get some MRI scans and it kind of showed that the muscular aspect of my leg has actually deteriorated with the lymphedema, which is, I don't think, that's not something it's not been really researched, has it? So it's really interesting. But with the lymphedema of the infections I've had, the muscle bulk in my leg is significantly less than the right side, which is very interesting, but ultimately it means that actually building up the strength in my left leg is a lot harder. So I can't compete with able-bodied athletes. And so when we finally got that specific evidence in, they were like, you know what, we actually can't argue with this. So they put me in the right category and eventually I was selected for the games. And it was just such a surreal moment because it was that goal I was always striving towards and I wanted to achieve. And even though I achieved it in a different way, it wasn't the Olympics, but it was the Paralympics, but they're both on the exact same playing field. The Paralympics is parallel to the Olympics. It's the exact same competition. And so when I achieved that, I didn't feel this sense of guilt like I initially felt when trying to become a para athlete. I felt like I didn't belong. But I actually felt pride within myself. And I think it's the first time I can say I actually did feel pride with this condition. And I did feel pride within myself that I was actually able to go out there and achieve my goals. If you think resilience doesn't stop there, trust me, it doesn't stop there. It goes further. So I've made the Paralympic Games and I think, you know what, after the year I've had, I will take just making the final. And as long as I don't come last, and as long as I don't come fourth, I think I'll be okay. So I get up to the start line in the heats of the race. We have a heats, and then if you qualify, you go to the final. I walk out into that stadium. 70,000 people are watching me. 70,000 people are seeing me with this compression garment on. Something that if you'd have told 16-year-old me, I would have laughed. There's no way I would have done that. But I walked out, and I promise I'm not lying, I was terrified. I was so scared. And it's to the point where this is not even allowed, but the officials had to pick up my blocks and put them down for me because I couldn't pick them up. I was so nervous. But once I started running, I realized this is exactly what I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to be on that main stage and perform and show people what I've got and show that grit and determination. And I qualified for the finals. And then after that, it felt like a bit more of a breeze. I felt like, you know what? I can go out there and just do my best, and I'll be really proud of myself and proud of the journey that I've been on. And I get to the final, the gun goes off. I nearly fall over flat on my face in the first 2 steps. And I'm like, you know what? That leg, she's had a long day. I'm not surprised. She was very tired. And it was her bedtime. It was 10 p.m. So, so I said, in the race, in my brain, I'm going, you know what, Didi? That's fine. Let's put that under the rug. Let's just get through the line. So I just pushed and pushed to that finish line, crossed the line and turned around. And it turned out, so I thought I was in 5th position. And I was actually quite happy with that because, again, I don't want 4th. I'm so sorry. I'm not coming this close to not having a medal. And I crossed the line and turned around, and it turns out that 2 Italian girls had fallen over across the line. And at first I was like, that's not very good. I really do hope they're okay. But as I walked closer towards them, I realized one of them has not crossed that line. Do you know what my first thought was? I've got 4th. I've got 4th. Oh gosh, how am I meant to go out afterwards with my beer in the bar and I'm just celebrating 4th? Please let it not be 4th. Please let it be 3rd or 5th. Just please. And then my name comes up on the board and I hear a lot of cheering, and it's actually me who's got the bronze medal. And I kid you not, if I had not pushed towards that finish line, despite the way that I messed up in the start of that race, I would not have got that medal. It's that resilience and that perseverance that someone has to actually get through that finish line and achieve your goals is what actually led me to getting that bronze medal. And it's actually something like pushing towards the finish line, like dipping as you cross the line. It's something I was taught ever since I was about maybe 9 years old, that you have to push, keep pushing, even when you think you haven't won, because you don't know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what life will throw at you. You never know what cards you'll be dealt with, but it's how you handle them that allows you to carry on through life and carry on a better path rather than this bumpy road where you're going 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It's what resources you use to enable you to do better with the cards you've been dealt with. And I just felt really blessed to even be on that stage, let alone get that medal. And I'm just very grateful for all the opportunities that I've had. And that's just kind of my journey through resilience, and it's what I continue to apply. So even this year, for example, I had the World Championships. I had a slight niggle, a slight bit of an injury over the last few weeks. And my first thought wasn't, oh no, like I've wasted my whole year and now I can't go to India, I can't go to the World Champs, and oh, my leg has caused all of this, which is what I would have done if it was maybe 7 years ago. But now instead it's more, okay, you've done really well so far. Let's try and push through the recovery and rehab. Let's make sure that you just do the best you can what you've been dealt with. And that's what I always stand by. So if you guys have any questions about resilience or just about, the Paralympic village, because I wouldn't be surprised, then feel free to ask me. I'll be around. I'm very chatty. I'm very sociable. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, no. How can you follow that? Apart from buying a book and asking people to sign it. There we go. Now, we've got time for a few questions before we move on. So if you have any questions, Matt, but Didi, not me.
Just out of interest, why did you go for sprinting, not with what you were good at? I mean, what is the lymphedema better at explosives, or is it better at stamina?
Interestingly, this does not have fast twitch muscles at all. She's very slow. She's very lazy. But the actual issue was that in para athletics, they don't have all the events. So in my specific category, I'm a T42, which is a hip and knee impairment. They don't have 800 meters as an event. They only go up to 100 meters. They only have 100 meters, long jump and shot put. I tried long jump in the first year before I decided to be a sprinter because, as I said, I only did a couple of 100 meters in that year. But my knee kept like buckling, and it just because as I said, my left leg's very dominant. So in athletic terms, that's my takeoff leg, my left leg. So if I'm doing that, what was happening was my knee would kind of buckle, and then as well, my hip wouldn't go through the air properly. It would kind of, rather than go like that, it would go and cut in. So it was just more of a health risk that I was kind of like, even with the jumping, I enjoyed jumping. I was like, nope, let me not do that. In fact, it would be nice to have a challenge. And I always put myself up for a challenge, so I didn't mind taking that on with 100 meters. I'm not a natural sprinter. I've really had to learn. So yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Can I just ask a question? Didi, first of all, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that, hearing about your journey through that. The one question that puzzles me from somebody not really in the know is, how well do you think they categorise the different disabilities to get into the various sections of the Paralympian?
I could be here all day about this, honestly. I really could. In my personal experience, they didn't do a good job. I think it's very obvious if you have full leg lymphedema, your impairment's everywhere in that leg. So why not put me in that category where it is everywhere? But with them, they have to be very specific with what they do, because some people try and fake symptoms. Some people try and get themselves into a worse category so they can do better. There's always cheating going on. Just be fair, guys. It's not that deep. But yeah, so it's actually interesting because if you have cerebral palsy, there is 4 categories you can get put into. And within those 4, it's different parts of CP, but there's a lot of changes with CP. So someone could be a T37, which is more impaired. And then at one point they will run like at the Paralympic Games. And then the classifiers will look and realize, oh, we've messed up. That person's not 37. They're 38. They're less impaired than what we thought, because people react different to different testing. And I don't think they do a very good job. And I think so a couple of my friends are actually doing like research into this, like for their dissertations and things like that. And how can we make the classification system better? We need to make it more inclusive and accessible to people with other conditions. The fact that I had to fight as long as I did to even get recognised with something like lymphedema, which it's rare, but it's not that rare. It's increasing. There's more awareness of it. And it was really interesting, actually, because I went to Dubai this year for a Grand Prix, a redo classification. They had to check on me because I got changed so many times. And the doctors, it was the first time when they assessed me, they went, oh, so this is lymphedema. I was like, thank goodness. I don't have to explain it all to you, and they explained everything. But if they just had that awareness, that better awareness of other conditions that are a bit more rare or they haven't heard of, then that would make the system a bit better. But at the moment, I say they've got a long way to go.
Thank you so much. And as you say, you'll be around a bit longer if there are any questions that you wish to answer.
I'm sat over there at the front. Yeah.
So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for saying that. And you know what's lovely, Didi, is you are such an inspiration to the younger generation, because typically, I hope you can take this in the nicest possible sense, most of us are old kids, right? With you, with Liv, with Rachel, with Emma, we've got young generation coming through who are not afraid to raise their head above the parapet and raise awareness of lymphedema. And all that can do is motivate and encourage the younger generation to follow you on Instagram, to watch your videos on TikTok, and I think can open up a whole new world to the new breed of lymphedema people coming through. So thank you, all 4 of you, for everything you do for the younger generation.